Occasionally, you come across a film that leaves you in contemplation long after it has ended. It leaves you with your emotions that the film touched upon, in your own puddle of tears that are rolling down from your eyes. When I watched Flea, I didn't want to talk to anyone for a while. I just wanted to be left there with my emotions. Directed by Jonas Poor Rasmussen, this animated documentary talks about a man who fled from Afghanistan in the 20th century owing to the onset of violence and the country being taken away by a terrorist organization. The film is made more presented mostly as an animation, and it's mostly about this protagonist's recollections of the events that took place about his immigration. Uh, the animation is done in a way that's almost dreamy, like a distant memory, which sort of suits the narrative because it's really a recollection of events by our protagonist. He talks about his childhood in Kabul, 1984. To be able to emotionally uh, describe what it was like growing up in that time, we had these exuberant background music to make us feel the lively, optimistic energy of the place. There's a very innocent scene of him roaming the streets wearing his sister's nightgown, which makes you realize the kind of freedom they had back then. It isn't that everything was sorted out or poverty was completely eradicated, but just the fact the child could roam the streets, a boy could roam the streets wearing a girl's clothes without the fear of being shot by a radicalist, tells a lot about how things have completely changed. The filmmaker and the protagonist happen to be friends, and the man sort of places trust in his filmmaker friend and tells the entire truth about his life, which he has hidden from everybody ever since he sought asylum in this new country, Denmark. This is his attempt to come to terms with his past and all the lies that he had to live with if he wanted to have a safe life. So this film tells us about how in 1979, as communist rule overtook the country in Afghanistan, how this protagonist's father was taken away as he was seen a threat to the communist rules, how eventually the entire family had to flee from Afghanistan, leaving behind all their personal stuff, and we are shown that they arrive in Russia, in Moscow, and at that time Moscow also was not in a very good condition. They live on a shoestring budget. Eventually their visas expired, they get rounded up by the police, and they have to bribe the police to be able to live with an expired visa. The film talks about the difficult process of seeking asylum in a foreign country, how you've got to hide things about your family. The film mentions that it isn't just about leaving your country. Now you can't have things your way. At times your nightmare come true. There's embarrassment, there's fears of death. So continuing on that note, they arrive at Moscow, and then uh, they have one of their brothers, one of the brothers of the protagonist who lives in Sweden. He sort of provides them with some money, and first the two sisters of the protagonist are taken away to Sweden, and we sort of get a peek inside what illegal immigration looks like, and it's a nightmare come true. You are packed in this huge deck of cargo, and this complete darkness. You are kept in there inside for 2 days without any light. You don't even know whether you will reach the required destination, and the kind of trauma it leaves you with. What this film excels at is humanizing these characters so that we are able to relate with them. There are posters of films, there are posters of celebrities, Chuck Norris, Bruce Lee, and mentions of the superstars popular around that time. There's a lot of references to popular culture, so that these foreigners are grounded in reality, and we realize that they had a pretty normal life like us. The film, there's a hint. There are scenes where we are seeing that they are being taken away on boats. They are hiding, as I mentioned, in decks of cargo, and being having realized having seen the human aspects of these people, we realize that people who get into these situations of being locked inside a cabin for days, or going through or crossing borders illegally in snowy areas without proper clothes to keep oneself warm. Their mental state is quite the same as us. They do not expect such horrible things to happen to them, and that leaves a very horrifying, traumatic experience behind them. The film shows how when you reach a foreign country, although we have changed the surroundings have changed, but inside the burden of just the horrific things you experience hasn't gone away, and it takes time. It takes years for it to manage. Sometimes it doesn't go away at all. um, the film eventually makes us realize the lie that that our protagonist had to keep telling to everyone and to himself that he met, so that he is able to become a citizen of this new country and not being thrown back to Afghanistan where he came from, because his immigration wasn't legal. Um, the film takes you through the journeys of all the ways that illegal immigration happens, how bad circumstances can be for such people. One other thing that the film talks about is that this protagonist, other than facing the problems of immigration, also happens to be gay, and how he has to come to terms with it. There's a scene where, when he has arrived in Norway, the place where he gets asylum finally, he is going to a doctor to get medicine so that he's able to cure his homosexuality, which gives you a sort of the stigma that is attached around to being a homosexual. Even in the clips being used, the way men are portrayed with those puffed up chests, boxing gloves, or inside tanks, give you an idea as to what it meant to be a man. You know, this I think this film is a one hidden gem that not many people have seen. I do hope it gets nominated for the Oscars and it gets more recognition. The film has some common elements to a similar film that got made in 2007 named Waltz with Bashir. You should check that out also. The film gives us great perspective on the great sorrow and tragedies of people's life, and I would highly recommend this film. Go and watch it.